I've been recommending it to everybody I can. It is still a problem. Horrifying. I couldn't tear my eyes away. Oh my God, the ending of this book is thank you so much to him for that. Hey y'all, it's Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today. And I have read 41 books so far in 2026, and these are the ones I think you actually should read. All right, so before we get into anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, and you have to tell me in the comments, if you had to give me one recommendation from all of the books you have read this year, what would it be? All right, so I'll be honest, 2026 has not been the best reading year for me so far. I've read a lot of good books. I wouldn't really say I've read many great books just yet, unfortunately. There's also a strong possibility that, fan fiction has taken over my life. It is still a problem, but we're working on it. However, of the 41 books I have read so far this year, I've narrowed it down to which books do I think you need to read. Starting out at the top with one that honestly, it kind of feels like a throwaway in the beginning anyway, because, well, everybody has read this series. And I finally made time to do that this year, and I need to talk about it with people. The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Now, I will say I have not read The Hobbit just yet. I'm getting there, but I finally ended up reading the official 3 books and totally get why everybody has so many positive things to say about the series. I understand why the series has been as big as it is for so many years. It is genuinely jaw-droppingly impressive. The amount of work Tolkien has put into the world building in this universe, it is insane. There is so many layers. There is so much nuance, so many different elements to the different species, the politics in play, the kingdoms themselves, the magic system, and the plot of this story. I'm not gonna lie to you, this was not a 5-star series from me. I really am glad I finally made time for this series. I actually read this along with my book club, The Geek Squad, over on my Patreon, and that definitely helped keep me motivated through this, because though these stories are on the longer side and some of them do drag a time or two, I'm still so glad I finally was able to experience this series. I got so invested in so many of the characters. Some of them I didn't think I would really care about because I had seen the films prior to reading these. I thought, my main focus was really going to be on Aragorn, probably Sam, and then Gimli and Legolas. And while I did love all of those, I had a newfound appreciation for Gandalf's character, for Merry and Pippin. I even ended up getting invested in Gollum because of the dynamic his character created with Sam and Frodo. I've learned time and time again now that cozy fantasies don't really work for me. And yet when it came to the first book in this series, Fellowship, it's 100% a cozy fantasy. It is a cozy traveling story. And yet I couldn't tear my eyes away. Well, ears. I listened to the audiobook, which on that note, highly recommend. I specifically listened to the one performed by Andy Serkis, and it was phenomenal. That man truly brought every angle of the story to life. There are numerous songs throughout the series, and those also added to the performance that he did, but also the universe that was being created here. The relationships we are getting to see unfold between these characters. There are some funny moments, there are some sweet moments, some heart-wrenching moments, some action-filled scenes. Like I said, I'm so glad I finally got around to reading these, and trust me, I am planning to try and pick up The Hobbit as soon as I can. In a pretty different direction though, next up I'm going to talk about 𝗖cie by Skip Hollandsworth. Now this was actually a gift I got from my parents for Christmas, and is a collection of different stories which were published in Texas Monthly, except he then explores the aftermath of those stories. I'm a true crime fan, so this wasn't exactly a trial for me to pick up, but I was really impressed with the unique and empathetic angle Hollandsworth had with every single story. Honestly, I don't think any of these really run together. All of them are pretty unique situations, from a woman who would cross-dress in order to rob banks to a group of prisoners who actually became really well known for performing on the radio. Every one of these stories was really interesting. Some of them were more modern, and Hollandsworth actually could return to the people involved to interview them again, but others were historical, and instead he would explore the ramifications that came off of that situation or the legacy of their stories. I don't think he fell into the trap of sensationalizing any of these crimes, but I do think you could feel the empathy he was coming at each of the situations with. It was definitely a really unique true crime collection, and I'm gonna continue to recommend it. Some similarities between these next two, but also pretty different. I gotta talk about Uzumaki by Junji Ito. Finally got around to reading this horror manga in March, and it was fantastic. Another one that I definitely understand why it has gotten so much hype, why I've heard so many people sing its praises, because this was so good. I would say this is a series of vignettes set in a town that is being haunted by spirals. And I never really understood what that meant whenever people would sell this book in that way. But at the same time, I don't really want to tell you too much more because it's really impressive how Ito always returns back to the spiral thing, but comes up with a new, fresh, weird take that is somehow horrifying. I also think he does a really great job of balancing between some psychological horror and some definitely uncomfortable and gruesome art. There were some panels in this that are gonna be haunting me. Thank you so much to him for that. And there were a few times throughout the book where I was a little concerned he wasn't really gonna manage to tie this up in a nice ribbon, to make a satisfying ending, to make an ending that actually, works for the world he has laid out here. But I was pleasantly surprised. I think he actually managed to do it and stick the landing really well. This book is 20 chapters, and like I said, it's a collection of vignettes, but every single time there would be new characters presented, and I was never confused by any repeat names, characters blending together, whether that be because of how they were characterized or how they were drawn, which I really think is impressive given the breadth of the story. I ended up being so invested in our main character of this young teenage girl who is unfortunately just trapped in this town and continuously trying to make the best of this really weird situation that, like I said, keeps coming back. It was weird and creepy, definitely going to be sticking in my head. I'm so glad I finally got around to reading this one. And if you haven't made time for it, I highly suggest you do. Swinging back around to almost the complete opposite direction, I've got to talk about The Entanglement of Rival Wizards by Sarah Rosh. This is probably the romance book that I have not been able to get out of my head so far this year. I would say this is a cozy fantasy with a very strong focus on a romance. It is actually set in this world that really rides the line between fantastical and contemporary in a very unique way. So we have our two main characters, which are actually in graduate school. However, one of them is in the invocation school and the other is in conjuration. And they have actually been continuously competing for years now and are up against one another for a grant. But turns out each of their projects are actually kind of around the same topic, just in their own magical department. So unfortunately for them, they end up working together. And eventually walls start breaking down. They get to see behind the strong exteriors they keep putting up and learn a little bit more about one another, and suddenly romantic feelings start developing. This was sweet, swoony. I think it did a really great job of diving into some heavier topics, but between the two of them, I was really impressed with Rush's work in exploring their characters, breaking them down layer by layer, making them really convincing, really hop off the page, which of course then made me much more invested in the romance that developed between the two of them. As I said, this was swoony, it was steamy, a little bit spicy, but there's also a lot of really funny moments. While it did make me tear up a time or two, I also laughed out loud more times than I can count while reading this. This was a glowing 5 stars, and as I said, I cannot get this book out of my head. This next one is also kind of a romance, but in a different way. I have to mention Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This is another book that's been hanging out in my head for weeks now, and I've been recommending it to everybody I can. So going in, we follow Ro, who has just recently moved towns. She's moved jobs, she's had a breakup, and she's really just trying to find her groove in this new city, find her new routines, make some friends. So she ends up attending a farmer's market where she meets Ash, this absolutely stunning woman who makes these gorgeous and amazing artisanal soaps and delicious cupcakes and has all these beautiful plants. And for the first time, Ro is actually finding herself falling head over heels for a woman. But the more she gets to know Ash and the more she falls for her, suddenly she starts finding unusual and strange things about the woman. This is another that I really don't want to tell you too much more about the synopsis because it really takes some freaking wild turns. Dawson did a fantastic job of making you so invested in Ro's character and Rose trying to find happiness that initially you really want this romance to work out. You want Ash to be normal. You want there to be a totally reasonable explanation for whatever it is that's going on. But she also plays with that in such a great way where it's just unusual and just unsettling enough that you're always a bit uncomfortable. And you can't help the questions that keep popping up, sort of like Ro does. And oh man, the way it is done, the way the story unfolds, it is just so good. This is a little horror novella that I absolutely adored. Prior work I have read from this author was on my best books of 2025. And I don't think it's a stretch for me to guess that this is going to be on my best books of 2026, because again, I can't get this book out of my head. It is such a great combination of a romance and a horror story. I also really liked the cottagecore vibes throughout it. I think the author did a great job of maintaining this like nature aesthetic, this like really sustainable lifestyle that Ash has, but again, done in a very interesting way. And the ending, oh my god, the ending of this book is, I did not see it coming. It's like one of those where I could maybe have guessed elements of it, but I did not expect that. It is definitely one that will stick with you for a while. I am also now realizing really need to get my hands on a copy of this. All right, and on that note, that is officially it for today, y'all. So thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, let's leave a test tube emoji in the comments. I have links to all of my socials as well as a few ways you can support me down in the description. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope that you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!